On this week's episode of Ride the Lightning, the Tesla unofficial podcast, Tesla's newest AI roadmap gives FSD owners a lot to look forward to before the end of the year. Plus, a latent feature of some Teslas might soon awaken. Tesla looks to standardize electrical connectors in the industry, and more. What's happening, friends? I'm Ryan McCaffrey, joining you as I do every single week for Ride the Lightning, the Tesla unofficial podcast. This one's publishing on November 3rd, 2024. It's episode 483. To my left, Daisy the Boxer Puppy, who went as an In-N-Out Burger employee for Halloween. If you'd like to see a picture of that, it is on my Instagram page. It was quite a funny costume. Got some good laughs at my day job at IGN. As I get the show started this week, I want to say congratulations to my Canadian listeners who have been waiting to get their Cybertrucks. This is the week. Longtime listener and Patreon backer Will Stedman emailed me to excitedly tell me that Tuesday, November 5th is his target day, and this week in general is when Foundation Series is scheduled to begin delivering for Canadian customers. So, to my neighbors to the north, enjoy those trucks. Another little warm-up here, a mini milestone within the Tesla Fremont factory. Specifically, that's the one that's about 45 minutes from my house, southeast of me. And that is the GA4 production line, aka the infamous tent, the sprung structure, produced its millionth vehicle this past week. Tesla noted the achievement on X with a post that says, quote, "Big Tent came a long way," with a photo of the first car coming off of that line back on June 8th, 2018, a black Model 3, and then the millionth vehicle to come off of that line, a white Model Y, on October 25th of course, 2024. Although the post on X specifically says 1 millionth Model Y built at GA4, so that sure sounds like a million Model Y specifically, and if that's the case, that means that GA4 has actually done a whole bunch more cars than that, because GA4 was the home of the Model 3 Performance line from the start of the Performance 3s until at least the introduction of the Model Y, which happened in March of 2020, and perhaps later. And I don't actually know if any of us in the public know. That might be a thing that only Tesla knows. Regardless, though, I wanted to mark this not only as a fun little milestone to celebrate for Tesla, and just, again, it's a small bit of evidence of just how far they've come. You guys know me. I like to pull back to that 10,000-foot view from time to time. And as somebody that's been doing this podcast for 9 years plus now, and following Tesla even longer than that, the idea that they've made not just 1 million cars, but 1 million cars on one production line that was literally sprung, it's a sprung structure, out of ingenuity. Just, hey, how can we expand our footprint here and make more cars without having to undergo some big costly renovation / expansion? And they did it. And they've now used that same structure for at least 1 million different cars. And this one's also a little near and dear to me because my car, my 2018 Model 3 Performance built in July of 2018, my car was one of the very first cars ever made on GA4. And I know this because the very first batch of the Performance Model 3 with the Performance Package, the shorthand term that I think I came up with this. I see it all over the community, and now maybe I didn't, I don't know, but the community referred to it as the P3D Plus, meaning it had all the performance trimmings, the larger brake calipers, the spoiler, the larger wheels, the aluminum pedals on the inside, because back at the very beginning of the Model 3 Performance, there was what we also referred to as a P3D minus, which was just a regular Model 3 without any of those aesthetic trimmings, shall we say, So just the 18-inch wheels, 18-inch tires, no big brakes, no big calipers, but it had the performance motors in them. So there was a Stealth Performance 3 and then what we called the P3D Plus. Anyway, the first performance Model 3s made on that line were the P3D Plus, and specifically, they started with the multi-coat red paint with white interior, which is what my car is. And I've got that very, very first batch. And just crazy that 6+ years later, they've made well over 1 million cars on that same line. Congratulations to everybody on the entire GA4 team, past and present. Speaking of the present, some of you that presently own a newish Model 3 or Model Y, or actually S or X2, may soon have a latent feature of your car unlocked. Now, those of you in Europe with newer Teslas already get to enjoy this feature, and that feature is adaptive headlights that can intelligently dim or turn off parts of the headlight matrix so as not to blind other drivers coming the other way. Tesla's Vice President of Vehicle Engineering, Lars Moravi, responded to a question on X about the USA availability of these now that NHTSA has finally approved the use of them here. And Lars replied, almost there, which I acknowledge doesn't give us any firm dates or even a window, to be honest, but it's at least reassuring that it's on the front burner for the Tesla engineering team. And this, I have to say, just as kind of an aside here, this very simple but pleasant exchange between a Tesla owner and a Tesla executive on X took me back to the days in 2018 when I used to get a lot of responses from the executives at Tesla. One in particular, the CEO. The CEO used to answer these kind of Tesla questions all the time. I miss those days. So Lars, if you're listening, sir, by chance, you have the ability to take up this mantle and be that earpiece for the Tesla community and respond to people who want to give constructive feedback, make feature suggestions for Tesla, about Tesla, on that social media platform. So Lars, if you're up for it, my friend, we would really appreciate it. Next up this week, sadly, this particular appetizer is a bit of bad news that the good news is it was short-lived. In fact, but from the time I wrote my notes to the time you're going to hear this, this is over. But I'm going to go through this anyway because there is a bit of interesting information that came out of this. So Tesla this past week very briefly paused deliveries of 2025 Model Ys in the US due to an EPA hold. I saw this written up on Drive Tesla Canada, who wrote, Tesla had temporarily paused deliveries of the 2025 Model Y in the United States as the Environmental Protection Agency, aka the EPA, finalized its range certifications. As part of this process of switching from a 2024 model year to a 2025 model year, Tesla has to get each of their vehicles' range ratings recertified by the EPA. Typically, this happens without an impact to the customer, as the approval is often given before deliveries actually begin. That isn't the case for the 2025 Model Y, and they cite some of their readers that had a delivery hold placed on their vehicle, but there is now resolution to that. So I want to start here, not with the actual range situation, but with this. I thought that Tesla typically didn't officially switch over to the next model year until their November build vehicles. So maybe I'm mistaken, or maybe that's changed this year. Anyway, because again, it's November now as I'm recording this and as you're listening to this, but the builds in question were late October. But anyway, the good news here is the fact that this was held up at all suggested to me that it might point to a larger good news story that Tesla has tweaked the range of the 2025 model year Model Ys, which has happened before. They have done this before when changing over model years. And so By tweaked, by the way, I mean increased, because Tesla continually improves. We all see this. It would be very highly unlikely that Tesla would make a change that would result in a lower EPA range rating. Granted, that did happen earlier this year, where range estimates were lowered, but that was because the EPA changed their testing procedure, which made the range estimates on Teslas and most other automakers' EVs go down. But in fairness, that new number was a more realistic number. That's what you see on the design studio now, if you go to order a car, is a much more realistic figure. And the answer here, fortunately, is that in fact, yes, the range did go up. Shortly before I recorded this, Tesla updated the range on the long-range all-wheel drive, in other words, the long-range dual-motor Model Y, from 308 miles to 311. The other trims remain the same. I know it's not much of a difference, but hey, it's 3 more miles. It went up. So now, here's one other fun thing as we do officially start the 2025 model year Model Y. Place your bets on how many 2025 model year Model Ys will get made before the Classic Y, aka the Model Y that's on the roads now, is replaced by the Juniper refresh. Will it be a 5-figure number? Probably not, given that Tesla is making about 100,000 Model Y per month. And so unless Juniper is arriving in January, right at the start of the new year, it's going to be a 6-figure number of 2025 model year classic Model Ys before Juniper takes over. And just one more thing for you before I get going with the main course of Tesla news this week. It's the Patreon poll. The question that I posted this week was unrelated to any of the news stories that I'm discussing, so I'll just talk about it right here real quick. It was a general question about the Cybercab, which, on a slight aside, I saw a lot of back and forth, a lot of posts from Tesla executives. It apparently is called the Cybercab, not the robotaxi. And a good way that I saw a couple of listeners put it too was that any Tesla can be a robotaxi, but not every robotaxi can be a Cybercab. So the cars we have now could be robotaxis, but the Cybercab is the official name of the small 2-seater vehicle that has no inputs whatsoever. Because, again, the drink vessel, the stainless steel drink vessel that I bought at the event that has the cool silhouette little sketch from Franz on one side of it, the other side of it, in the cyber graffiti font, says robotaxi, not Cybercab. So I was just like, wait, which one is it? Well, that appears to have been cleared up. It is the Cybercab. Anyway, the Patreon poll question, which anybody can vote on. You don't have to be backing me on Patreon. You don't have to be a member of my Patreon to vote in. And I'm seeing more and more of you voting every week, which I appreciate. More and more of you stopping by patreon.com/Tesla podcast to vote. And you can do that. Usually the poll goes up on Tuesday nights. You can just stop by sometime during the week and cast your vote. This week's question was, are you interested in buying a Cybercab for personal use? In other words, not a rideshare vehicle. You wouldn't be using it to make yourself money, just as a personal vehicle for you, for your family. And I was curious because, I'll be honest, I am interested in it because I could use it to send my daughter, whether or not, now by the time the car gets made, maybe my daughter has a driver's license by then, but she's also at 13 right now. I know things can change quickly for teenagers, but she has no interest in driving at all. She has shown no interest whatsoever in cars, in the idea of driving and getting a license, which is fine if that's what she decides. So the Cybercab could be a cool way to just, if it's a $30,000 car or less, to just own that and let it take her where she needs to go, take my wife wherever she wants to go, loan it to friends or family, etc. But anyway, I was curious about all of you. So are you interested in buying a Cybercab for personal use? 59% of you said no, I'm not interested in buying a Cybercab for personal use. 24% of you said you're still undecided, you need more information first, such as range and final price. And 17% of you, or about 1 in 6, said yes, I'm interested in buying a Cybercab for personal use. Again, tons of responses on this poll. A lot of great comments on here too. This is a common one. Daniel Green, I think speaking for a lot of folks here, says, for my family of 5, a 2-seat robotaxi is nearly useless. So that's understandable. Again, we know why Tesla has chosen a 2-seater here, but in terms of personal use, a 2-seater doesn't make sense for a lot of families, certainly. But thanks to all of you for taking the time to vote in this week's Patreon poll. Just a couple of quick Patreon PSAs before I move on with the rest of the podcast. Apple is now requiring that any backing, if you sign up for my Patreon through the Patreon iOS app, you're going to get stuck with the 30% Apple App Store fee. So if you are kind enough to join my Patreon at any point in time, all I recommend / suggest is that you do so not through the Patreon app. Do it on patreon.com/Tesla podcast on a desktop or mobile device. Just don't use the app. So that's the quick PSA there. That is now in effect as of right now. And then also, those of you who are kindly supporting me on Patreon at that $10 tier or higher, got to listen to this week's Patreon Lightning Round mini episode. This one was about me predicting when Tesla's next big product reveals will happen. I talked about 3 events and when I think they're going to happen. So if you're interested in hearing that or the other 118 Lightning Round mini episodes, you can join my Patreon at that $10 per month tier. The support tiers start at just $5 a month, and every tier has early access to each week's episode and an ad-free version of the podcast as well. And if you go to that $10 per month tier, you also get access to those weekly Lightning Round mini episodes. Don't forget that annual pledges, if you just like to sign up and support me for an entire year, just pay once, there's a 10% discount for doing that. Just select the annual pledge option there. That's my way of saying thank you for supporting for an entire year, give you 10% back. And Patreon does have a free 7-day trial. It's specific to that most popular tier. That's the $10 per month tier. So you can sign up for a free 7-day trial of that if you'd like to check it out. All of it is happening on patreon.com/Tesla podcast. Let's talk FSD now, as the Tesla AI team released a new roadmap for November. It is a big update, so buckle up. I'm going to read you the whole thing. They write, as October comes to a close, here's an update on the releases. What we completed. End-to-end on highway has shipped to about 50,000 customers with version 12.5.6.1. Cybertruck build that improves responsiveness. Successful We Robot event with 50 autonomous Teslas safely transporting over 2,000 passengers. What's coming next? Full rollout of end-to-end highway driving to all AI4 users, targeted for early next week, meaning about the time you hear this, including enhancements in stop smoothness, less annoying bad weather notifications, and other safety improvements. Improved 12.5.x models for AI3 city driving. That's me, AI3. Actually Smart Summon released to Europe, China, and other regions of the world, pardon me. And then they write, V13 is a package of the following major technology upgrades. 36 Hz full resolution AI4 video inputs, native AI4 inputs and neural network architectures, 3x model size scaling, 3x model context length scaling, 4.2x data scaling, 5x training compute scaling enabled by the Cortex training cluster, much improved reward predictions for collision avoidance following traffic controls, navigation, etc. Also, the list keeps going here. Efficient representation of maps and navigation inputs, audio inputs for better handling of emergency vehicles, redesigned controller for smoother, more accurate tracking, integrated unpark, reverse, and park capabilities, support for destination options including pulling over, parking in a spot, driveway, or garage. And then finally, improved camera cleaning and handling of camera occlusions. But the post is not yet done. They conclude by saying, "We have integrated several of these improvements and are already seeing a 4x increase in miles between necessary interventions compared to version 12.5.4. This lays the foundation for the V13 series, and we are targeting to ship version 13.0 to internal customers by the end of this week. Most of the remaining items are independently validated and will be integrated over November in a series of point releases. We are targeting a wide release with version 13.3 with most of the above improvements for AI4 vehicles around Thanksgiving." And that is the end of their post. So first of all, you know what wasn't in there? Version 13 for hardware 3, aka AI3 cars, like mine, which makes sense since it's only supposed to get to out wide to hardware 4 cars by Thanksgiving. So I'll take that to mean that hopefully the AI3 cars get it by Christmas, like 1 extra month. I think that's probably going to be the team's goal, and I suppose we'll find out when they give us their December roadmap in about a month from now. But we are clearly seeing hardware 3's ceiling getting bumped up against here. It's, as I've talked about already, I mean, that's where we are, and it's just a matter of now how far is hardware 3, aka AI3, how far is it going to go? Fortunately, on the earnings call last week, Elon Musk said, and he did the right thing, if hardware 3 cannot do unsupervised FSD, they'll upgrade us. So that's definitely got me reassured. So we'll see what happens. We'll see how long the delay is as we get to each major new release, because it was a couple weeks or so, I think, between the AI4 cars getting 12.5 and the AI3 cars getting 12.5. So now we'll see how long that's going to be for version 13. Now, the second thing I wanted to comment on, those numbers on version 13 sound pretty darn good. And granted, I'm not smart enough to really understand the context of those numbers. So what I will say is that it will be fun to see how those numbers translate into the real world experience. But speaking of real world experience, audio inputs for better handling of emergency vehicles, well, that sounds like the car might be listening for sirens from police, fire, ambulance. And in that case, I guess it's gotta be using the microphone inside the cabin, right? The same microphone that's used for Bluetooth phone calls, because I am not aware of any microphones on the outside of the car. Now, please correct me if I'm wrong. There's the pedestrian warning speaker that every Tesla built from, I believe it's September of 2019 onwards has. But that's just a speaker only. Unless there's a microphone hiding in there that Tesla never told anybody about, which is definitely possible, by the way. But I suppose this means, the internal microphone that's used for Bluetooth calls. And then the last thing I wanted to comment on was the being able to pull into your garage. How cool is that? I mean, that's really, really end-to-end FSD. If it can go from a from reversing out of a parking spot in a shopping center to pulling into your garage, that's as point to point, as end to end as you can possibly get, which is just so cool. Now, it sounds like the first build of version 13 is going out to Tesla employees with AI4 cars, because that's what I take internal customers to mean, is Tesla employees who've bought a Tesla. And that should be happening around the time you hear this, which means we might start to get some first impressions of it in time for the next podcast, unless, of course, those Tesla employees are all under NDA, which they may very well be. So stay tuned for next week, and if there's anything fun to talk about with regard to version 13, I will most certainly do that. Next this week, Live One, aka the artist formerly known as Slacker, has announced its Tesla-exclusive pricing for folks who are about to have the formerly free music service taken away from them unless they pay for a subscription. I saw this on Drive Tesla Canada, who writes, according to the Live One website, there are 2 account tiers you can sign up for, Live One Plus and Live One Plus Premium. The only difference between the two is that the cheaper Live One Plus account does not include being able to listen on demand or offline. Other than that, all features are the same. As for pricing, Live One Plus will cost $4 per month, technically $3.99, but okay, $4 a month, while Live One Plus Premium will set you back $10 per month. Opting for an annual billing instead of monthly will bring the price down to $35 per year, which is $2.91 per month, or $100 per year, respectively, for the cheaper and more expensive plan. And that's $8.33 a month if you go annual on the more expensive option. This compares to the regular pricing of $40 per year for Live One Plus, so that's a $5 savings for Tesla customers, and $11 per month for Live One Plus Premium. My goodness, that is a mouthful. And there's no annual option at all for that account type for non-Tesla customers. So presumably most Tesla folks, I think, would probably just go with the cheaper Live One Plus plan, since they just want to listen in their car, as they've been able to do up until now, or I guess technically it's up until December 1st before it gets shut off. And okay, I mean, $35 per year isn't terrible. I mean, that averages out to about $3 a month, but when that's on top of your premium connectivity that you're already paying for, which is $100 per year if you're doing the annual subscription to that, it makes it a bit pricier. I mean, that's adding 35% onto your bill if just to keep that one live. I don't know why I keep wanting to call it one Live One music subscription. And per the poll that I ran on this, the Patreon poll that I posted back when this news broke a few weeks ago, it seems like most of you are probably not going to pony up any money for this, since the results of the poll were that most of you use one of the other music services that are available in our cars. But if you are one of those folks interested in continuing with Live One, now you know what it will cost you, and you can decide if you want to spend that money or not. Next this week, Tesla is looking to standardize electrical connectors in the automotive industry. The company put up a blog post on their website titled Standardizing Automotive Connectivity. It's pretty short, so I'll just read you the whole thing. Here we go. Over the last 20 years, the cost and complexity of electronics across the automotive industry has doubled. Today, a single vehicle typically requires over 200 connections, and the number of electrical connectors and types across new vehicles is only increasing. To accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy, we are simplifying the manufacturing process and electrical connectivity requirements for all our vehicles. This includes the implementation of our low voltage connector standard, LVCS, which allows us to reduce the large number of connector types required to just 6. These 6 device connectors are designed to meet the power and signal requirements for over 90% of typical electrical device applications. This standardization unlocks further operational efficiencies, cost reductions, and manufacturing automation. LVCS expands upon the same 48-volt electronic architecture used for Cybertruck. It meets the requirement for increased spacing for 48-volt operation and is available in industry standard light blue. The 48-volt architecture is the optimal long-term choice, requiring 1/4 of the current to deliver the same amount of power. Designed to enable reliable autonomous vehicles, it utilizes robust single-wire sealing and independent secondary locking mechanisms while minimizing the package size. Tesla invites all device suppliers and vehicle manufacturers to join us in this initiative. Any questions can be directed to lvcs@tesla.com. Well, this is one of my favorite parts of Tesla, and that is their obsessive, and obsessive is the right word, and I'm using it as a compliment here, their obsessive devotion to efficiency. Now, not all of those efficiencies directly benefit the customer in a way that they see or experience, but most of them do. I mean, this one, for instance, won't do so directly. It won't make the car faster or give it more range, but if it can help ultimately lower the cost to make the car, it puts Tesla in a better position to lower the price at the end of the line for the consumer. But adding on to what I said a moment ago, an extension of that, and another thing that I love about this company, is that the designers and the engineers are the people leading the decision making at Tesla. Not accountants, not marketers, and not corporate people. With, by the way, no offense to any of those 3 groups, who certainly serve important roles in any company, but having engineers and designers lead the way, that's how we got the Cybertruck, and it's how we got the Model X, and it's how we got Plaid. Plaid would not exist if engineers weren't there making the decisions and just pushing the boundaries, saying, yeah, we can drop a 3rd motor in this monster and make it go ridiculously quick. It's awesome. I love that the design teams and the engineering teams at Tesla are the people that are really leading the way. And, by the way, designers and engineers leading the company, that's how we also have these consistent software updates that are always adding new features to our cars completely for free. For free. Another company that was led by the money people probably wouldn't do that. And so I can't pretend to know if this new LVCS connector is going to catch on across the industry, but I am confident that no matter what, it's going to be a win for Tesla. The next story, in fact, the final story I have for you in this week's podcast, before we get to your phone calls in the Ride the Lightning hotline, is this one. The Model Y remains California's top-selling vehicle through Q3 2024. Another tip of the cap to Drive Tesla Canada, who had this. They write, according to the latest figures published in the California New Car Dealers Association, the Model Y has seen nearly 106,000 registrations from January to September, significantly outpacing competitors like the Toyota RAV4, which is just under 50,000. So it's the Model Y has more than 2x'd the RAV4. And the Honda CR-V, which is a good bit below the RAV4, the CR-V is at 37,000, in fact, just under 38,000 registrations in the light truck category. The Model 3, meanwhile, is also significantly ahead of its competitors in the near luxury cars segment, quite a segment name there, with over 37,000 registrations year to date, enough for a 43.4% market share in that segment. When it comes to overall sales in the passenger car segment, the Model 3 sits third, less than 3,000 registrations behind the Toyota Camry, which is just over 40,000, and the Honda Civic, which is a little above that at 40,741. The Model 3 is also the second best-selling EV through September. Not to be left out, the Model S is the bestseller in the luxury and high-end sports cars segment with 3,046 registrations and a 9.4% market share. Again, remember, this is just California. This is not the entire country. The Model X is the second bestseller in the luxury midsize SUV segment with 7,314 registrations, through the first 9 months of the year. Now, I realize that at this point, the Model Y being the number one selling vehicle anywhere, let alone California, is hardly news. But it's still great to hear about. It's fun to talk about. It's cool to celebrate the wins. Again, thinking back what I was saying earlier, that 10,000-foot view. When the Model Y launched in 2020, I mean, did any of us necessarily think that it was going to be here in less than 5 years? Be the reigning number one selling car in the world and almost certainly going to defend its championship, its title there? I mean, it's the most bullish of us, sure. And I'm a bullish person when it comes to Tesla, but number one selling car in the world going on 2 years in a row in such a short amount of time is wildly impressive. But I think what I really want to talk about here and what I really want to say about this is that my brain goes to next year when Project Juniper launches. And the thought occurs to me that Juniper is going to need some time to ramp up. So that means that the Model Y might temporarily give up its crown of the best-selling car in the world. But not only do I expect it to get that crown back pretty quickly, I think the Model Y might actually be even more in demand once the Juniper refresh hits. Well, why do I say that? Because it's going to be new inside and somewhat outside as well. And it's been long enough now where some early Model Y owners from 2020, maybe even 2021, might be ready to trade in. Plus, there are fence sitters out there who are already waiting for the Juniper. They're sitting back, they want a Model Y, but they're waiting for Juniper. Maybe that's some of you listening to this. And so I guess my point here is that in addition to the scores of people who will join the Tesla family and join the EV movement for the first time through the Model Y, who are still absolutely going to be there when the Juniper comes out at some point in 2025, probably the earlier part of 2025, there is also a not insignificant contingent of people who are already in the Tesla family who are going to be interested in this vehicle as well. And if my hypothesis is correct, it leads me to ask one more question. Is Tesla already at the maximum production capacity for the Model Y, or is there room left to produce more of them in the 4 factories on the existing production lines? I mean, knowing Tesla, there's probably more juice to squeeze out of that fruit just yet. And I guess another fair question, I'm sorry, this is the last question. I'm going to speak aloud, I promise. But last question, how long will it take to ramp the Model Y back up to full production after the changeover to the Juniper happens? And that question, none of us have the answer to just yet. So stay tuned, and in another few months or so, we'll find out. Before I get to your phone calls in the Ride the Lightning hotline, a friendly word from my friends at Accelerate Auto and their XCare extended warranty option for your Tesla. Yes, it's just that. It's an option. But if, like me, you're planning on hanging on to your Tesla well past the factory warranty and you'd like to keep the car covered, the XCare plan is the way I recommend you do that. Why? because you can go so much farther past the Tesla extended warranty. Tesla's is only 2 years and 25,000 miles, and you have to get it before your factory warranty expires. None of that is the case with xCare. You can get it whenever you want, and you can go way past 2 years and 25,000 miles if you want to. I have a 3-year, 40,000 mile plan. You can go all the way up to 10 years, all the way up to 125,000 miles of extra coverage, or anywhere in between, whatever makes sense for you. It also features a $100 deductible, 24/7 roadside assistance, alongside rental reimbursement and trip interruption coverage. So check them out at accelerateauto.com/xcare. That's XCELERATEAUTO.com/XCARE. The link for that is also in the episode description if that's easier. And don't forget to use the discount code LIGHTNING for $100 off your policy purchase. They also offer a battery and drivetrain plan as well, which you can either add on to your regular xCare plan that covers the rest of the car, or you could just get the battery and drivetrain plan. If you don't want to worry about the rest of the car, you just want to focus on that most expensive piece of it, which is the battery, the drivetrain, you can just buy a coverage plan for that as well. So again, check them out, accelerateauto.com/xcare, discount code LIGHTNING for $100 off your policy purchase.
Hi, this is Franz von Holzhausen, and you're listening to Ride the Lightning with Ryan McCaffrey, the Tesla unofficial podcast.
It's time for the Ride the Lightning hotline. A reminder, if you've got a question, comment, or discussion topic for the podcast, give me a call. There are 2 easy ways to do it, and you can potentially be featured here on the podcast. You can either use your smartphone's built-in voice recording software. All you got to do is record your question. Please try to keep it to 90 seconds or less so that I can get to as many callers each week as possible. And then email that file to me at my podcast address, which is teslapodcast@gmail.com. Or you can take that same 90-second or less question and call in and leave a message on the Ride the Lightning hotline. That's anytime, day or night, go for it. The toll-free number is 1-888-989-8752. Again, that's 1-888-989-TSLA. And if you know someone special with an upcoming birthday, anniversary, graduation, or some other special occasion, you can give them a unique gift of recorded voices from friends and family telling them why they're special. The recordings can be podcasted, like I do with them, or put onto a keepsake that you can give to them. Visit lifeonrecord.com to learn more. First up this week is John from Ontario.
Hi, Ryan. It's John from Ontario, town of Collingwood. Called in before and appreciate your answer back then about Cybertruck. And I'm curious as to what your thoughts are on how Canadian orders line up with this reservation list. I haven't gotten an invitation to go for my new regular priced Cybertruck, even though many in the States have. I'm a first day reservation holder and haven't heard a thing. I wonder if anybody else out there in Canada has heard. Appreciated your show on the robotaxi. Again, great job. Appreciate all you do. Take care.
Well, John, I suspect you're going to be waiting for a little bit for 2 big reasons. One, Foundation Series deliveries to Canada are only just starting this week, as you heard me mention at the very top of the show. And then 2, Canadian trucks do have to be homologated for your market, which, if I recall correctly, don't quote me on this, you might know this better than I do, I think that involves making sure that there are English and French labels on various things in the car. Like, I'm talking about the under the hood stuff, under the hood parts. Again, please don't quote me on that. There may very well be more to it. But the point is, a Canadian spec vehicle is different than a US spec vehicle. So Tesla is most likely going to batch them for Canada, meaning that once the general production orders start for the Cybertruck in Canada, Tesla will run a big batch of those all at once for not only manufacturing efficiency's sake, but for homologation and probably transportation, logistics, and deliveries sake as well. I unfortunately can't predict how long it's going to be before you get invited, but I think there's a better than average chance it might not be this year. They might roll it into next year. But then again, with everything wide open now, at least here in the US, maybe it will be sooner than you think. But if it doesn't happen this year, and that's a big if, again, it's probably a 50-50 coin toss, I'll bet it happens in early 2025. Thank you for your call, John. I appreciate it. Next up, here's Daryl from Houston.
Hey, Ryan. This is Daryl from Houston again. I'm one of the 13% that answered yes, I use it regularly, to your recent poll about Slacker Radio. I've used it since getting my first Model 3 in May of 2018. 3 months ago, I traded it in for a 3 Fresh, so I received the email about Slacker going away. So I've been evaluating my options, such as accepting a 3-month subscription to Apple Music that was included with a recent Apple TV purchase. Last week I learned that Amazon had added music streaming to their Prime membership, so I've been giving it a try. It sounds better than Apple Music to me, plus won't cost anything extra, so I'll probably go with it. I suspect there are others with an Amazon Prime membership that are unaware that it includes a streaming music service, so wanted to give them a heads up so they can evaluate their options before Slacker goes away. I hope you find this informative. Have a great day.
Thank you, Daryl. We have a Prime account in our household, and I'll tell you this, I didn't know that. So you have taught me something, and for that, I am grateful. I appreciate it. We do also have an Apple One subscription in our house, so I guess when I get my Cybertruck, I probably will not be paying for the Slacker or the One Live or Live One, whatever the heck it is, but will instead, I'm going to give Apple Music a try, which I've actually never tried it. And same thing with Amazon Music. I'll give that a try as well, see which one I like best. I am very grateful, as I mentioned a couple shows ago, that my Model 3 happens to be just barely grandfathered in on the Slacker because I've just got that really dialed in to my personal music taste. But this is a great heads up, Daryl. Thank you very much for your call. Going to nearby Brisbane, California, and let's talk to Anthony next.
Hi, Ryan. This is Anthony from Brisbane. It's been a little while since I've called in, but I just want to call in with some thoughts about the Optimus robot. I noticed that there was a lot of chatter in the community. Many people were kind of disappointed by Optimus being remote operated at the We Robot event. And I get that. And I totally agree with what you said about, if Tesla had just been a little more upfront about all of that, they probably could have avoided all of that stuff after the fact. But I was actually really excited to see what we did see, even though they were remote operated. And that's because I see a lot of real world applications already for a remote operated humanoid robot, even without the sort of AI brain, right? Without being fully autonomous. First few things that jump to mind to me are, bomb squad, search and rescue. I know that after the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster, one of the biggest issues, right, they had was that people couldn't get in there, like they couldn't send a human in to do anything. So things like that. And a little food for thought. One of the big ones that I see is remote space exploration. I am 90% certain at this point that we are probably going to see some remote operated Optimus robots on that first unmanned mission to Mars. Just some food for thought. I think it's actually really exciting what has been achieved and should be celebrated. Anyhow, have a great day. Love the podcast and take care.
Anthony, I appreciate your call. You make a great point. I admit that I had not even considered the remote operated applications for this thing, but you gave some really fantastic real world examples there. And with the next gen hand with 22 degrees of freedom coming soon, in fact, whichever social media platform you're on, if you're on X or if you're on Instagram, if you look at the Tesla post from Halloween, it is a little quick video of the new hand that has those 22 degrees of freedom. And you can see it is some straight, it's like beyond Terminator stuff. Like when the endoskeleton, when the skin comes off and it's just the metal, like it's quicker, it's more reactive than that. It is pretty wild what the next generation hand is going to look like. So anyway, the point is, it's only going to get even more capable of doing increasingly delicate operations like the aforementioned bomb squad use case that you gave. So thank you very much for calling in. Really appreciate that one. And I've got time for one more call this week. It comes from Blake in Los Angeles with a feature request.
Hey, Ryan, it's Blake from Los Angeles. Had a request really for the Tesla team, and hopefully they listen to this. But the holding the left steering wheel button when it brings up the quick menus, that it will usually you can program that to whichever menu item that you want to bring up. So I have mine set to acceleration, the change in the acceleration from my standard to chill or whatever. But what I was kind of thinking, which would make it even better, is if they could, since the menu is quite extensive and not probably not something that you want to scroll through while you're driving, if there's maybe like one or two bits of the menu that you'd want to get to, like for me, it would be the acceleration and maybe the temperature change. That might be something where you can deselect the different menu items that you'd want to see in that quick menu, screen. Hopefully that makes sense. Just driving and kind of thought of it. So anyway, figured I'd relay that. Hope all is well, and love the podcast. Thank you.
I like this idea, Blake. I mean, it certainly adds to safety, as you pointed out. I mean, why not allow you to get rid of the options on that list that you don't care about? I mean, they let you do it for the music services that you don't care about. You can hide those from your menu, from your UI. So hopefully you can speak this one into existence if the right folks at Tesla are listening. Thank you very much for your call. Thank you to everybody that kindly took the time to call in. I promise I will get to more of your Ride the Lightning hotline phone calls on next week's podcast. So keep them coming. I gave you the 2 easy call-in methods at the top of this segment. Refer back to those, and I look forward to hearing from more of you on next week's podcast. Before I go, there's still the Spirit of Adventure to talk about. That's my car. That's what I named my car, because Pixar's Up. That's my favorite Pixar movie. And so here's what's going on with my car. I rolled 69,420 miles in my Model 3 this past week, but I missed the photo op on it. I had spaced out on it while I was driving. Well, the car was driving itself. But I pulled into the garage and I went, oh, I should be pretty close by now. And I swiped over on the card there on the UI, and it was 69,423 miles. So just barely missed it. I posted a picture laughing at myself on Instagram anyway. But onward and upward, here's to the next 69,420 miles in my Model 3. I've got an entertainment recommendation for you this week. In fact, there's just no shortage of them for a while here because there's plenty of good shows on TV, and in my day job world, there are plenty of good video games hitting the market right now. One of those is Call of Duty Black Ops 6, specifically the campaign. I can't speak to the zombies mode or multiplayer mode. I don't really play those anymore, but the campaigns I still like to check out. And I'll be honest, I'm a person, I have played almost every Call of Duty campaign ever, going back to Call of Duty 1 in 2002, I think that was, not the 90s. I think that was 2002 or 03 was Call of Duty 1. Then Call of Duty 2 was a launch title for the Xbox 360. That was 2005. Anyway, I've played almost every campaign. I did skip Modern Warfare 3 campaign last year because I just heard it was terrible. It wasn't good. Didn't play it. But Black Ops 6's campaign, I'm not done with it yet. I'm about halfway through. It is excellent so far. Absolutely excellent. A lot of great variety to the gameplay. The story is getting interesting. Visually, it looks great. And it is definitely, even though I'm only halfway through, I'm going to say it is my favorite Call of Duty campaign thus far in about 5 years. The last one that was on this level was the original, the reboot of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 1. So, well, which was the Call of Duty 4 reboot. In other words, the 2019 game, 2019's Call of Duty Modern Warfare. It's so confusing the way they did that. Anyway, really enjoying the Black Ops 6 campaign. So if you have Xbox Game Pass Ultimate on your PC or console, obviously, it's just there. It's on Game Pass. If you have Ultimate specifically, if you have the standard tier, it's not, but if you have the Ultimate tier, it is. So you don't even have to buy it, which is nice. But in any case, the campaign's been really good so far, and I'm looking forward to playing the second half of it. Here is your Tesla pro tip of the week. It comes from John in West Virginia.
Hey, Ryan, this is John from West Virginia. Thanks for what you're doing for us. Hey, I have a tip for you. The favorites button or Ask Star that has been missing, I found it. So while you're playing your music, open up your playlist, swipe down on the left-hand side of your playlist or on your play, and your play buttons will move to the top of your playlist. You will also see your star there where you can unfavorite something or make it favorite. This works for TuneIn and for the Slacker. Those are the only two services I use. So hope this helps somebody. Have a great day and play with those puppies.
Thank you very much for this one, John. And yes, I will absolutely play with those doggos for you. Mina will be back this weekend. If anybody else out there has a good Tesla Pro tip of the week, I would love to hear it so that I can share it with everybody and we can all learn a little something new about our Teslas. So if you've got a pro tip of the week, please send it in. You can do so by submitting a phone call the same way that you would do if you were calling in to the Ride the Lightning hotline. I gave you the instructions for that a little while ago, so refer back to that. Before I get out of here, though, I want to mention some friends of the podcast that can hopefully be of use to you sooner or later, starting with abstractocean.com. So many great accessories over there. In fact, let's take a quick look. Abstract Ocean. What is doing over on Abstract Ocean today? A Halloween sale. Ends November 4th. That's Monday. So if you're listening to this quickly, or I should say, meaning like right after it's been posted, you can get a little extra discount. You can probably stack that discount because I'm going to give you the Ride the Lightning discount here in a second. Anyway, mud flaps, hydrophobic camera cover for 3 in the Y, the rim trims, meaning it's a band that goes around the outside edge of your wheel to eat up curb rash so that your wheel doesn't get damaged. Ultra bright lights for the new Model 3, for the Y, both inside and out puddle lights as well. Just all kinds of stuff. Swing on by, take a look as I'm doing now, and it would take another 20 minutes to scroll through all this, so I'm certainly not going to do it now, but take a look, abstractocean.com, and when you get to checkout, after you've put everything you like into your online shopping cart, use the coupon code RTLPodcast to get 15% off of your first order. That's RTL Podcast, all one word, no spaces. Next, the Snap Plate and the newer Snap Plate Plus, available for all 5 Teslas currently in production. Get yours at everyamp.com/RTL and use the coupon code RTL for a discount. This is the front license plate bracket that snaps on and off in seconds. It doesn't mess with anything. It's a nice, clean, minimalist design that blends really, really nicely with the front end of your Tesla when it's installed and leaves no unsightly hardware behind when it's removed. Make those fix-it tickets go away for those of you who, like me, hate having to use a front license plate. So check them out at everyamp.com/RTL. Use the coupon code RTL. And if you're wondering the difference between the two, the regular snap plate is safety optimized with breakaway features to sacrifice itself in a worst case scenario like a parking accident or a car wash. Meanwhile, the Snap Plate Plus is strength optimized with hardened features for maximum strength. Both are made from recycled, made in the USA plastics with stainless steel reinforcements. If you are in or going to be in the greater San Francisco Bay Area with a car that you love, whether it's your Tesla or something else from your garage, I wholeheartedly encourage you to make an appointment with Immaculate Reflections. Go to irdetailing.com for more, and that's also how you get in touch. You can check out their work on Yelp at yelp.com/Immaculate Reflections, or head on over to his Instagram page, which is Immaculate why am I missing this? There it is, Immaculate_Reflections. Can't read my own notes. So whether you want ceramic coating on the car, paint protection film on some or all of the car, you want to do paint correction to get that finish looking as good as it possibly can. Whatever you want to do, Immaculate Reflections will work with you, with your budget, with your goals, and I guarantee you're going to leave happy. So again, irdetailing.com. And when you reach out and drop them a line there, make sure to mention that you're a Ride the Lightning listener, and you'll get a Ride the Lightning listener discount if you book in any services. I mentioned the Patreon closer to the top of the show, but I'll mention it again here. I would be very, very grateful if you would take a look at my Patreon page if you've never done so before. You can head on over to patreon.com/Tesla Podcast, and there you will find all the different support tiers, all the posts, and all the bonuses. There's a lot going on over there now between the early access episodes, the ad-free episodes, the weekly lightning round mini episodes for that $10 per month tier or higher. In fact, tomorrow, as I'm recording this now, tomorrow we're doing our November hangout for that maximum plaid tier or higher. Looking forward to chatting with folks. As always, we always have a great conversation as a good-sized group. So if you see it in your heart to support what I'm doing here with the podcast, Patreon is the way to do that. So again, head on over to patreon.com/Tesla Podcast, and all the information that you could want about all the different support tiers and all the little bonuses and perks that you get at each tier is all found there. If you're not already following this podcast on your favorite podcast service, I encourage you to do that. It's totally free. And what doing that does is it'll make sure that a push notification gets sent out to you every time there's a new episode, which with this podcast is every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific. And that way you don't have to remember to go find a new podcast episode or wonder, wait, is it today? Yeah, every Sunday, same time, but just subscribe or follow whatever your favorite podcast service calls it, and you won't have to worry about remembering it. So most of you seem to use Apple Podcasts, according to my back-end statistics, but I'm also on TuneIn, I'm on Spotify, and I'm also on YouTube Podcasts as well. The way to find me on any of those podcast services is to type in Ride the Lightning Tesla Podcast on search, and it should come right up there. The referral program has returned. I didn't mention it at the top, but I'll mention it again here. I'll add, too, that if you're considering buying a Tesla and want to ask some questions about which one is right for you, or maybe which specific variant of a particular model might be best for you and your family, feel free to hit me up anytime on email, teslapodcast@gmail.com, on X or on Instagram, and on either of those two social media networks. I have the same username. It's DMC_Ryan. I am always happy to help with this stuff. I want to be a resource. I want to help you be happy, because that's what this podcast is all about. Is I do this because my Tesla makes me super happy every time I drive it, and I love talking about these cars, so I am more than happy to help you out. And if you do intend to purchase a new Tesla, make sure to use someone's referral link. If you'd like to use mine, I'd be grateful if you would choose to do that. And the way to do that is ordering directly through the referral link. Otherwise, you will not get the $500 discount on the 3 or the Y, or the $1,000 discount on SX or Cybertruck. So go to ts.la/Ryan73014. I will put that link in the episode description as well. And that will take you to the Tesla website, where you can choose which model you want to buy, or you can click inventory and search the inventory cars. You can still get the discount on those, but it'll take you to that page. Choose which car you want, configure it however you want, and when you submit your order, that $500 or $1,000 discount will be applied. Again, you do have to use the link. You have to order with the link, because Tesla will not retroactively go back and apply a referral after you've already placed your order. And let's see here. I mentioned my social medias and my email address. And so we're almost done. The last item on my agenda, as it is every week, is to extend a sincere hello and thank you to the top tier Patreon backers. These are the extra generous folks for whom I am very, very grateful that they voluntarily choose to support the podcast at the upper tiers. I will start with the Maximum Plaid crew, since these are all the folks that are invited to tomorrow's monthly hangout. If you join the Patreon at that Maximum Plaid level or higher, anytime from, now when you hear this, you will be invited to every single one moving forward. You obviously will have just missed November, but we'll get you an invitation for December and January and on and so forth. So the Maximum Plaid backers are Jonathan Wales, Cameron Clark, Daniel Grummer, Seth Capello, Nick and Tony, the Galpin family, Ryan from New York City, Darren Nickel, Kaz Barnes, Brett Libano, Patrick Wisniewski, Gil Cabrera, Todd Badger, Joe Edgel, Kevin Yank, the Tesla Owners Club of San Joaquin Valley, Will Stedman, Justin Perez, Jeremy Harris, Chris Beach, Tom Mills, Corey O'Donnell, Aaron, John Cody, Joel Sapp, Paul Casarino, Richard Corley, Chris Osborne, KB, Adam Lavoie, Jason Chalukas, Travis Krenzel, Bruce Otterstein, Tom Behan, Josh Pennington, John from Cream Ridge, New Jersey, Dustin Hart, Derek Finley, Charles Clement, Adam Christie, Damon Klein, Jeff Brown, and Jerry Slinger. Next up, the Roadster in Space tier backers. These folks, in addition to the standing invitation to every single month's monthly Patreon hangout, these folks also get a one-on-one hangout with me each month if they elect to take it, and a number of them do, and I always enjoy chatting with these folks. They are Pete White, Lyle Austin, Steve Radspinner, Fernando Cordero, Lawton from Chicago, Sean Neidig, Neil Weaver, Jackson Wallace, Rolf and Jennifer Evers, Howard Anthony Smith, Victoria Iacovetto, Tesla Hitchhiker 42, Carol Weston, Robert from near Philly, Kristen Rumble, American Home Contractors, GetAmber.com, Doug Carey, Rav, and Michael Gallo. Finally, a big hello and thank you to the grandfathered-in Plaid level supporters. They continue to support at this tier, even though it's officially not a thing anymore. But I am very grateful that they're kind enough to continue supporting at this tier, so they get all the perks and bonuses that they should get, including this weekly shout-out. So thank you very much, and hello to George Cassiopo, Logan Willis, Peter Chalet, Eric Randolph, Dory and Steve Guberman, the Tesla Owners Club of Taiwan, Ron Lee, Charlie Gillespie, Jeff Angwin, Chase Cabanillas, the Lydia family, Aaron Altschul, Jared Brown, Jerome Strack, Jamie Dalton, Mike and Barbara from Louisville, Matt Nixon, the Tesla Owners Club of Wisconsin, Ish, not Elon Musk in quotes, Peter, and the Bear Boys of Colorado. A huge thanks to all of you. At any tier of the Patreon, you are what keeps this thing going, and I am very, very grateful to you for your support. Thanks to everybody listening for taking the time. Again, we're all super busy in life, So the fact that you take an hour plus out of your week to listen to this podcast, I really appreciate that, and I recognize it. And so, with that, I will say goodbye for this one. I've got a now awake Daisy the Boxer next to me. For next week's podcast, in fact, the next couple podcasts, Mina will be back. It'll be our turn to have her. So looking forward to having the two dogs happily rumbling with each other, probably making a commotion while I'm trying to record the podcast, but that's okay. It makes for a fun household. I hope all of you are doing very well. Happy electric motoring to all of you, and I'll see you back here next week.
Elon Musk, people don't like Elon Musk. The guy founded PayPal and Tesla, and people are like, yeah, but he's a troll and a bad dad. I'm like, so was mine. He did nothing to fight climate change. Also, have you been in a Tesla? Have you been in a Tesla? My buddy let me drive his Tesla. I laughed out loud at how fast it went. Been clinically depressed my entire life, on dozens of medications, in a Tesla for 13 seconds, cured forever.
I think a Tesla is the most fun thing you could possibly buy ever. That's what it's meant to be. Our goal is to make it's not exactly a car. It's actually a thing to maximize enjoyment. It's maximum fun.